This is Real Life with Deb Waterbury, a real show for real people with real issues. And now, here's your host, Dr. Deb Waterbury.
Well, hi there. Welcome back to our next show talking about priorities here on Real Life with Deb Waterbury. And today, I'm joined by my friend Dwight.
Hi.
Hey, Dee.
I'm so glad to be back.
Well, I'm glad you're here. Dee and I have been friends for, how many years?
It's multiple numbers.
We're putting two numbers together. Then
One and a three or a four. Yeah,
something like that. So Dee and she does so much ministry. Dee has her own ministry. What's it called?
In my mind, I have my own ministry, Freedom, Wholeness, and Health.
Yes. Because what do you do for a living?
Well, I teach health and wellness to adults with mental illness, but I spend a lot of time in my other recovery arena and just getting out of that darkness and into the light. We want to be whole again.
Amen. So. Which is a whole lot of what this show is about, but more in terms of, it's real life.
Real life.
What do we deal with in real life? Yeah. And so the disclaimer here is that Dee and I are very real. Even those of you who know me, you know that I am. And those of you who know Dee, you know that she is. So
very real.
We're going to try to be very, very cognizant of the fact that we're on camera right now. We can't be that real.
But we also don't want to be fake because then it's really not worth doing all this.
No. So anyway, today we're talking about, last time we began a couple-part series on priorities. And I had Karen here with me, and so now we're going to talk. I think we talked about priorities in the home.
In the home.
So now we want to talk about setting appropriate priorities outside of the home, which is really difficult for women. I think it's difficult for everybody, but it's definitely difficult for women.
And I kind of joked about it. Depends on how you feel about the people in those other places. So if I care more about my family, I may make my family priority over everything. Or if I'm more into myself or my career or who sees me or those, I may make those outside things more important.
Yes.
So,
and things really suffer whenever we don't have appropriate priorities. Not only our relationships with one another, but our relationship with Christ is the big thing that suffers the most, I think, when we put things out of order, when we have, because, obviously God has an order.
Right.
And his order is God. And then if you're married, it's your spouse. Mm-hmm. And then if you have children, it's your children.
Oh boy, and people don't like to hear that one.
No, but that your children are third. And then career is way down there, even underneath, your work at church.
Right.
But what we will often do is put those priorities out of order. And then what happens the first thing that will always suffer, I think, is our relationship with Christ. Don't you think so?
Mine is usually the other way around. Because my relationship with Christ is not the priority, there is no order anywhere.
Right. That's true. And that's a good point.
Yeah, that was my word for the year was about, surrendering. And the word for the year is to pick one word. Priorities never used to be a word. It used to be priority, and somehow the English language put an S on the end of it. If it's a priority, there should only be one thing.
Wow. Look how smart you are.
Well, I taught it to class to my students because we always help people make goals and stuff. And I have this goal and this goal and this goal, and you're going to be exhausted and miserable and out of, like you said, out of balance and out of order. Mm-hmm. So,
and the exhausted and miserable is the thing that then affects everything. I mean, it affects
physically. Now our body. Now we hurt.
So what we want to talk about is different areas that we get things out of priority, and then maybe at the end of the 15 or 20 minutes here together, we'll talk a little bit about what we can do to get things back into priority outside.
Back on track.
Yes, back on track. And it's really that simple, and it's going to be hard for me not to jump to that because it's really not complicated. We make it complicated because we have to put aside what we tend toward in order to do the very simple thing.
Right.
But we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah, it's so fun to just get to... I'd rather talk about the solution than I am the problem.
Yes, but exactly. And that's the issue. We're the problem. And it's what's going on here and what we consider. And it doesn't even matter it doesn't even have to be that we consider it to be out of order. Or we consider it to be priority. What we really do is just do it automatically. We kind of do these things automatically. So... what is one of the ways that you think, Dee, that we can get off track in prioritizing, things outside of the home?
Real things. Let's talk about real things. I just realized, thinking about, we have a new grandchild.
Right.
And so all of a sudden it's like all this focus and attention. And then it dawned on me, now there's another birthday. Now there's another, and then it's, I hate to say it, but usually our priorities are affected by other things and other people.
Yes.
Kind of what gets put on us. And so then that kind of, and then a lot of times we are so distracted by it that we oh, okay, I like following shiny, flashy things. So, oh, pretty new baby, let's go there. I know that Karen has a new grandchild too. So we both are in that, but I've had grandchildren, but then you add, oh, new job or a fun new project to do at church. Oh, let me do that. And then, but there is that thing at work. So I am always, my priorities get messed up because of the things that I allow to be put on me as priority.
Right. And the things you get excited about, like you said.
Yeah.
It is the things that, because I'm jealous of y'all that you have grandchildren. That makes me sad. Not sad for you, sad for me, but eventually I will have them.
It's only a matter of time.
It is only a matter of time. But having those things that you get so excited about, and then realizing that those things have taken an unhealthy place in your life,
right?
So for me, what that looks like often is work that I do for the Lord.
Right.
That tends to be outside of my my poor husband, who is very.
All of us may as well just say our poor husbands.
Our poor husbands.
Plural.
Yes. And then because half the time I'm thinking, oh my gosh, that husband of mine. But
today it's those
but
poor
that
babies.
Poor man. And what happens here is that he so often, besides just God, will take a back seat to everything that I consider much more important. And
we ask them to help us with that.
Exactly. And to have a good attitude about it. And so, going out, what's affected almost always immediately by my having the wrong priorities is my relationship with my husband.
Yes.
It can also be my relationship with my children.
The closest people to us get affected by our messed up priorities.
Absolutely. And I don't want to jump ahead to friends, but I know that often it's something that will get in the way of my friendships as well.
Yeah.
Because I know I tend to, my work in ministry tends to be the thing that I find to be the most important thing. And so what I do is I get that out of order thing in that I think that ministry and God are the same thing. And they're not. God is top, but it's my relationship with Christ that is the top priority, not my work for Christ. And I know that
good things versus God things.
Yes,
always comes back to that, and
then
I have to keep it simple.
Yes, and then we get and that's the truth though, because it's difficult to separate the work you're doing for God and then God Himself.
Right.
And then because then you're like, well, this is the priority.
I'm doing this at church, but it's for God. And but. That was my thing. Get rid of your but for New Year's, kind of like, but it's B-U-T. It's like there cannot be a but or like trying to justify why this is priority.
Right.
When you haven't made the Lord, did the Lord tell you that should be your priority?
Yes, because He's very clear. The delineated priority is God, husband, children, then your ministry, and then your work, out in your career or whatever. And understandably that, you can't be irresponsible.
Oh, yeah.
And not make money. Obviously, we have to have money to live.
Which unfortunately means we have to go to that place called work.
Yes. But you can go to work and not make it the most important thing in your life. It is, it's not about time. It's about attention. And I think that we forget that often. It's not, I can spend an hour with my husband and it be the most important hour of the week.
Yeah.
But if I don't prioritize that he needs that and that our relationship needs that because I've spent it everywhere else, that's when it begins to, and it's the same with our time with God. If I begin to say, okay, God, I can't really have time with you this morning because I've got to get the kids to school and I've got to do this and I've got to do that, or I've got to be at church early because I've got to do this. So you know what? I'll talk to you later. You have just now put everything above your relationship to God.
Thinking that you are serving Him or being in ministry to Him or for Him.
Or serving your family by going to work. There's so much justification. And I love that you just said that that's your word for the year.
Yeah.
There's no more buts. Because that's what we do. We say, but I need to do this. But I need to do that. So in putting those things out of order, if I've gotten up in the morning, and I'm a big proponent, those of you who've heard me many times know I'm a big proponent for having your quiet time, your time with the Lord in the morning.
In the morning.
Because it sets your attitude for the day.
Yes, and or we know it's not going to happen if it doesn't.
Absolutely.
Because everything else
will slide right in there.
Just like you asked me, like, how did things get out of order? Because I let them come on to me.
Right.
So if I haven't focused, me and you, Lord, this morning, all this other stuff that I had planned, it's certainly not going to go well.
Right, exactly.
I'm probably going to forget half of it.
Right.
Because Lord, what do you want me to do?
Right, absolutely.
I surrender me and my time to you today.
That's exactly right. And and getting more to the actual solution without even, having to spend too much time there it really is about where are you going to spend the most quality time.
Yeah.
It's not about because where you spend the most quality time is going to be an indicator of what you consider to be
your
most
focus.
important.
If that's what you're focusing
Yes.
on, that's what you're gonna. That's your result.
And so the simplification here is that it is God, husband, children, church ministry work, wherever that is, and then your career and your friends and all that stuff. Now, your friends being something that many of us...
A lot of them are hearing it right now going, I'm not where?
Exactly.
I'm not... Because, perfect example, when you wake up, you turn off your alarm, and then what is that? There's all these notifications.
Yes.
Deb's got a new post. Deb is not first.
Yes. I hate that, but it's true. And the thing is, though, is that our friends in particular, you can.
We'll do that later.
Yes, and you can definitely get your friends out of order because you'll justify again. They need me. I need to be a good friend with them, and you can put them above your children, put them above your husband, you can put them above the place of God. There are so many ways that we can get this out of order, and then it affects so much of all of us and all of our lives. And excuse the dog.
If anybody heard the doggy sneeze,
yes,
and then we pet the doggy, the dog thinks that the dog is priority.
Yes. And your dog can be your priority. And honestly, I know a lot of people whose pets are their priority over everything else. Yeah. And I get that. I love my dog. I love every dog I ever have. Our pets are part of our families. The issue, however, is that you have to be sure that. And I think you're so right. If you make sure your relationship with God is first, everything else will fall in place. And your husband will be where he's supposed to be. Your children will be where they're supposed to be. Your ministry will be where it's supposed to be because God will direct us. So this is where I want to get to the solution because it is so simple. It's simple, but it requires commitment.
Yes.
It requires that we will do what we need to do. And that is, and I know we covered this with Karen because it's always the same solution.
Yep.
And the solution is God in the right place.
Yes.
And that means you have to spend time with him. Mm-hmm. It's not about, I can't tell you the number of women that I minister to and that I counsel that will tell me they're having, and women don't come to me because they're having a great day.
Because life is good.
Yes,
Let me just reach out to this person that I'm kind of close to, really don't even know, total stranger. Yes. I need help. That's not what you do when life is great.
Yeah, I love my husband, love my kids, everything's great. I don't get those phone calls. What I do is get the phone calls about people who things are not good, generally with their husbands, sometimes with their children, sometimes with their friends, sometimes just with church, or just life in general.
And then you have to say, and how's your relationship with God?
Yes, every time. Oh. And I've said this, and people who have heard me teach have heard me say this, that I will give them 20 minutes, and it really is 20 minutes. 20 minutes and you get to tell me what's making you mad. And so generally for that 20 minutes, they're going to complain about husband or children or whatever, a friend, somebody's done something, family, somebody's done something. And then at the end of that 20 minutes, then that's all I allow.
Yep,
for
you're
that.
done. You're
done talking about what's upsetting you because now I'm going to talk to you about why it's upsetting you. Mm-hmm. And I don't, I have to take my own advice half the time.
Right.
But what I always get back to is how much time did you spend with God every day?
How many times did you, like David in the Psalms, how many times did you cry out to the Lord about this?
Yes.
Instead of going to your friend.
Right.
Or going to, heaven forbid, social media.
Right.
Or his friends.
Right.
I mean, conflict resolution, not management, but conflict resolution is going to that person.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Going to that person. And the first person should be your heavenly
Absolutely.
Father.
And
your favorite saying. That vertical relationship is going to affect all
the
of
horizontals.
those.
Always. And you work on your vertical first. And one of the things that I tell ladies is it's not about just talking at God. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't spend time in the Word
and hearing from Him,
then you are going to be speaking your own words.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You'll talk to Him because a lot of women will say, I talk to Him all day long. Well, how much time have you spent in the Bible?
Listening.
Yes. Because if you're in the Bible, this is God's word.
It is.
And you're filling yourself with God's word, filling yourself with what He says. Then when you speak to Him, you're not just speaking your words.
Yes.
You're speaking the words of God. You're speaking what He has to say, and you're speaking Him into the situation. Yeah. Otherwise, you're just repeating over and over again what you already think, and that's not helping anybody. You're talking at Him what you already say to yourself. But what you need to be talking to God in terms of and speaking it with Him about is His word. And you can't do that if you don't know it.
If I don't know it.
So the priority really, and it seems so simple, but it also requires a commitment. It requires you to say, I am going to spend this time with God every single morning. And that time is not just praying, not just singing, though those things are wonderful. That time is actually in the Word, listening to Him by filling yourself with this.
With His Word.
It really is so simple. Because if you do that, then you will. It's God's Word is so instructive.
It doesn't return void.
No, and you will then, your nature, your man nature will go aside, and your spirit man, your spirit woman will then move in and show you that, okay, your husband really is important and he should be next, and your children are underneath him, and that your ministry for God is not the same thing as a relationship with God. And so those things, that ministry for God is underneath your family, because God puts those things in order. They're in His Word. You know that if you're with Him.
And the cool thing is that if we put Him first, it's amazing how all of a sudden those people that are putting these demands and things on you, if you're in His Word and you are seeking Him, I love Psalm 27, one thing I have desired of the Lord that I will seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life.
Amen.
Lord, you take care of all of these things that are trying to push their way into my life and making themselves higher than you.
Amen.
If I seek Him first, then all of these other things will be okay.
That's exactly, and that is such a simple biblical truth.
My word for the year, surrender.
Oh, very good. So this is what we're talking about in terms of priorities. Next time, we're going to talk about how you set boundaries in your lives.
Oh.
Yes, and those are difficult, because sometimes priorities are one thing, but setting a boundary means you recognize you have a priority, but there are people who are breaking through that.
Yeah, they're still...
Yes, and so how do you set up those boundaries? It'll be what we're going to talk about for the next 2 times. So thank you so much for joining me and Dee today for Real Life. Don't forget to subscribe so that you'll be able to know when the shows come up and be able to here with us every single time. We love you. Thank you so much. God bless. Thank you for joining me today on this episode of Real Life with Deb Waterbury. I hope it's been a blessing to you as much as it was to me. You know, if you want any of my books or information on articles or any of my speaking engagements, you can go to my website at debwaterbury.com. God bless you.